You have found what lights you up. I'm your host, Sunny the Life Coach, and I'm here because I see you searching for something or someone out there to help you feel better. Something to take away the pain that you're feeling, the inadequacies. I know all of the things that happen in life can leave you feeling empty. Your search is over. This podcast is all about finding your own freedom and power to love yourself enough to shine in the ways you were always meant to, the ways in which you are already fully capable of. If you're ready for some real talk, some serious truth bombs, and a few F-bombs, you are in the right place. Let's do this. Let's get lit. Hey there. Welcome to episode 24. How are you today? On whatever day or year that you happen to be listening. How are you? When you answer that question, do you say fine? I'd like to challenge you to come up with a better descriptor of your emotion, because we always say fine, don't we? We say fine, good, or okay. It has just become too automatic for us in our sense of being cordial, like the person asking doesn't really want to know. And you know what? Who cares if they really want to know? From now on, I'm just going to tell everyone what I think. How am I today? Today, I'm feeling mildly annoyed, if I'm being honest, which I like to do. We've had a few hiccups with online school over the past few days. Monday of this week was Labor Day. The Friday before, the school's network was down. Then it was down again on Tuesday. Okay, extended holiday break, y'all. Let's just hope it doesn't drag on as long as spring break did. Yes, because all of the COVID fun started happening the week that our son was on spring break in 2020 of this year. And so at first, the school district was like, we're just going to add an extra week to break. They kind of had to, because the powers that be were still deciding what we were going to do as a society in general. And of course, the rest is history. The kids never returned to school. My fifth grader would just wave at the building when he passed it here and there over the next few weeks and months. See ya. Never going back there. He was totally fine with it. Anyway, I'm not annoyed with the fact that the school network is being flaky right now. I used to work in IT. I get it. I'm super patient with outages because I've been on the other side with all of the stress and the scrambling. So believe me when I say I'm grateful not to be dealing with that side right now. No, I'm annoyed because the kid gets all settled into I'm not doing school today, into that mode. And then when everything comes back online during the final period and he has classwork to do, he gripes about it. One class. Dude, stop it. So annoying. And this isn't the topic today, although somewhat the topic of emotion I am going to address because it's what I do and it's super important. We don't discuss our emotions enough. We are taught not to discuss our emotions, and it's become a source of so much of our self-induced suffering. Honestly, I want to dive into depression today. In fact, I'd like to try a different approach with it because it's a topic that we all tend to dance around. I've had a close and toxic relationship with depression over my lifetime, and I now have a new perspective. Instead of dancing around it, I'd like to dance with it. Not around it, with it. Not something to dive into, something to dance with. I think especially in the times we are in, we need to be open and willing to talk about the darkness and the hard stuff. We do not need to suffer alone and in silence, as so many of us tend to do. I'm going to share my own personal experiences with depression over my lifetime and ways that I have discovered that work for me to live a really good life in spite of having shitty feelings at times. I'm not going to go through my whole life story, relax, but I am just going to bring in some highlights that I think will be beneficial. Understand that this is my perspective from my own lived experiences, and it is not intended to be medical advice. What I have to say here is not the be-all, end-all for treatment. Do your own research, find your own professional support network, and of course, follow the advice of your doctor if you are currently seeking treatment or being treated. Now, I think it's important to ask ourselves what depression is. What is it? Is it a chemical imbalance? A temporary emotion? A state of mind? Perhaps all of these things are true. When it comes to depression in particular, I think we like to put it in a box and say, this is what it is for everyone. It can't be that because it's really this. If it's this way for me, the same must be true for you. I don't think that's how it works now. What I do know is that when you're living with it, I can assure you that it can at times feel debilitating. There is no doubt about that. So let's break each of the concepts down, starting with chemical imbalance. This would likely have been true for me when I was a teenager, and then again, a little later in life. Now, it's been a few minutes since I was a teenager, but I do remember it was a pretty angsty time for me. Of course, I thought it was only me. I'm telling you, those hormones are no joke. No one was telling me how to manage my damn mind, so I was telling myself all kinds of stories about how my mom didn't love me and I was a loser and I was a dork and all of these fucking lies. Of course, I now know that those were just thoughts and not reality, but then they seemed very real. And I decided I didn't want to be around anymore. When I was 14, I took a bunch of pills, close to 200 Tylenol to be exact. I know I'm being very matter-of-fact about this now, and I want to be very clear when I say the despair in the moment is so very real. Also, checking out of life is not the answer. That's not the way out. I'm not going to get into detail of that episode of my life, but suffice it to say that I've had many moments since that point in time where I have experienced immense gratitude for still being alive. I'm having one of those moments right here, just sharing openly and honestly and from my heart. I did write about it in my blog just over a year ago. I'll add a direct link to my story in the show notes if you're so inclined to know the details. It's not too graphic, in my opinion. Of course, that time is very far in my rearview mirror, which is part of the perspective that shifts over time. That's just how it works. For now, I simply want you to know that I've been low enough to just try to find that way out. That I just wanted the pain to go away. And at that age, I just didn't have an understanding of what my options were beyond that escape. And yes, I'm sure I also had some hormonal things going on. More than anything, I'm sure I didn't understand that my inner mean bitch could be navigated, if not suppressed, without overdosing or numbing out in some way. I just didn't know then what I know now. And it may be this, as well as many other lived experiences, that drives me to share it all with you. Sometimes, no, many times, I consider these moments when I either tried to check out or came damn close to medical emergencies, as I've already discussed here, When I consider where I am now, I realize that I'm supposed to be here, right fucking here, sharing all of the things that I never thought I would. Yes, chemical imbalances I do believe can come into play, for sure. And we didn't have nearly the pharmaceuticals then that we do now. Growing up, I never saw a single drug commercial. It wasn't a thing. And it wasn't a thing that we talked about openly, not taking medications. Unless you were old and you have these pill boxes labeled for each day of the week, which I know are still out there going strong. Not feeling depressed, taking medications, or feeling suicidal. That just wasn't something that you talked about. I did end up taking medication for depression in my 20s. I didn't do it for long, maybe a couple of years. I tried a few different things, but the side effects ended up being worse than the symptoms I was trying to suppress, so I did end up quitting them. Please be assured, I am not recommending anyone either start or stop medications. That is not my place. You work with whomever you need to work with to make that determination. Again, this is not medical advice. I'm simply relaying what has worked for me. Meds are not what worked. What I actually found out, probably in my late 20s, early 30s, was that those diet sodas I was addicted to were certainly not helping me. And I use the term addicted loosely. I think it was more of a lifestyle that I had just become accustomed to while I was working the equivalent of 2 full-time jobs, one of them being night shift and physically demanding. I got into the habit of drinking several 20-ounce Diet Mountain Dews per day. And when I say several, probably 3 to 4 over the course of an 18 to 20 hour time frame, just to keep myself going. On my way to my night job, I would grab a pack or 2 of mini thins. Remember those? That was ephedrine, which has since been banned. I probably did that for a couple of years just to get through work. Then I was so jacked up I couldn't go to sleep while the sun was coming up. Anyway, I wasn't working those jobs anymore when my mom told me the artificial sweeteners were really wrecking my brain. And she shared an article with me that sparked my curiosity. Then I read a book about it, and soon afterward, I quit artificial sweeteners entirely. My brain may well have already had a bit of an imbalance going on naturally, but I was pumping all of these extra substances in. Perfectly legal substances, by the way, that certainly weren't helping me at all, and layering on some antidepressants for good measure. This is what I learned. The book that I read was called Excitotoxins, The Taste That Kills. And yes, while it was a rather alarmist writing, I thought, maybe there is something to this. I don't have the book anymore. I donated a lot of my books to the public library the last time we moved, but that one really intrigued me because I honestly wasn't aware that I was in essence poisoning myself with these diet sodas. And look, I am not a purist by any stretch. Let's be perfectly honest here. I was smoking cigarettes and popping ephedrine. I knew what I was doing there. I guess I just like to pick my poison, you know? I like to make the conscious choice. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that of all the things I was doing, I didn't think it was the diet soda that I needed to be leery of. But here's what an excitotoxin is. It is a substance added to food and beverages that literally stimulates neurons to death, causing brain damage of varying degrees. And it can be found in such ingredients such as monosodium glutamate, or MSG, aspartame, which is NutraSweet, hydrolyzed protein, aspartic acid, Now, this book was written a while ago. I don't even think it's in print anymore. It freaked me out enough to ditch the sodas for good. And sucralose came along later, I believe, and that's what is in Splenda. Splenda is sucralose. It's no better for you than aspartame. Don't be fooled by that. I do like a splash of something sweet in my coffee, and I found that the herb stevia is fantastic for that. So I've been using stevia only for anything sweet for many, many years, either stevia or pure sugar. That is it. I think there can be a natural chemical imbalance. And I think that we can create this or even further exacerbate any neurons that are already jacked up in some way. Does this make sense? I personally won't go near the stuff. You, do your own research. It may not affect everyone the same way. Just like antidepressants or other medications are often trial and error. Let's see what chemical concoction works with your unique mind and body. By the way, try it for at least 90 days and then taper off slowly and try something else until you find what works for you. Trial and error. What I can tell you from my personal journey with this is that I felt like an entirely different person when I cleared my system of excitotoxins. There's certainly no harm in removing those from your diet. You do have to become a vigilant reader of labels, but I've gotten used to it. It's necessary for me. I just treat it like an allergy. And as far as I'm concerned, I don't have any allergies. I'm super healthy, despite all of the shit that I've done over the years. So much gratitude for that. This is something that I honestly never hear about, and I haven't heard about since that article my mom shared. She does like her naturopathic sources and that book. I won't let my kid near the stuff. So when I say you have to become a vigilant label reader, it's because you'll find, as I did, a can of mixed fruit on the grocery shelf marked for kids that says no sugar added and is indeed packed with sucralose. And that is sneaky as fuck, because I've certainly learned that sugar-free means artificial sweetener. That's a given. But when mixed fruit is packaged as no sugar added, your first thought is, well, that means it's only the natural sugar from fruit. Don't bet on it. Read the damn label. I also bought a drink from the health food aisle of my local market probably a good 5 or 6 years after I had quit diet sodas. As soon as I got it home and I took a sip, I spit it out. Yup, packed full of that junk. I was so pissed and I could taste it. It was so obvious. As soon as I tasted it, I looked at that label and I was so angry. So don't take for granted that you're buying health food in the health food aisle. It's not always healthy. Okay, I'll get off my soapbox on that topic now. Like I said, it's something worth looking into and even having the conversation with your doctor. Hey, do you know what effect that diet drinks mixed with these antidepressants have? Just question. At the very least, have some awareness that if you're taking meds to alter your brain chemistry, some of what you're putting into your body may be working against you. This is not my area of expertise, beyond what I know to be true for me. Just check it out. That's what I have to say on the chemical imbalance part of depression. There are so many factors at play for sure. This is just one of them. If you truly want to feel better, try some new things. Ask lots of questions. Do your own research. Perform your own trial and error scenarios. If you're under a doctor's care, be open with him or her about all of it so he or she can truly serve as your advocate in this journey. Now, can depression be an emotion that you feel just temporarily? Can you use that to describe the sensations in your body without a formal medical diagnosis? Well, I say yes. This is Sunny's view of the world, after all. We also have to truly understand how those medical diagnoses come about in the first place. If you're not even sure, I'm about to break it down for you. They come from questionnaires. It's that simple. Either you're going through a written list of symptoms and indicating whether you feel them sometimes, most of the time, or somewhere in between, or you're verbally answering a series of questions with a medical practitioner. It isn't as if there's an x-ray machine for your feelings to indicate if something is broken, as we can easily tell with a bone. When it comes to your mind, you have to do some inquiry. And all that a medical professional can do is take your answers as honest and apply their diagnosis and treatment for you. For that reason, I think that depression can be an emotion like any other. I think that at times we all feel it. Sometimes an event happens in life, a breakup, a death, a loss that feels devastating, and you fall into a dark place, into the shadows. Sometimes it's just there because it's a gloomy day out and it's Wednesday. It doesn't have to mean that there's something wrong with you. By the way, having a formal diagnosis doesn't mean there's something wrong with you either. I think depression can indeed be temporary, and I think that when it is, trying to resist it, avoid it, or wish it away is only going to keep it around longer. Because when it's presented as a feeling, we need to treat it as we would any other emotion and feel it all the way through. Really sit with it, welcome it in, listen to what it has to say, dance around with it, explore it without judgment, without expectation for how long this visit will be. Just allow it to be. I do think it helps to pull yourself out of bed and move around, go for a long walk. The first step is the hardest. Everything after that just falls into place. And I'm not talking about taking your mind away from it either. There's nothing really distracting about a long walk. In fact, I'm sure I've mentioned before that I find long walks to be meditative and some of my best thinking time. So while you're at it, dancing this dance and taking this walk, perform your own inquiry. Ask your own questions. What does this feel like? What are the sensations in my body? Going inward instead of trying to distract yourself is a very powerful exercise, and it does take practice. You're not going to want to do it, but I assure you that it will be okay if you do. Of course, have a backup plan and someone to call if you need to, be it your therapist, a close friend, or a hotline. If ever there is a moment that you don't feel safe to be alone with your emotions, definitely reach out. And I think the temporary aspect of depression can lead into a full-blown state of mind when it is left unchecked. You may start to identify yourself as being depressed instead of simply feeling it. It becomes a part of who you are. It may be very easy and almost natural for you to think, I am a person who is depressed most of the time. What's the difference between a chemical imbalance and a state of mind? Really, I think your own diagnosis of it. I think you can have this state that you allow yourself to identify as a human being without seeking treatment for it. Do I think that's healthy? Probably not. That's really where you should be pushing back with your own inquiry and asking yourself, is that true? Is that what I honestly want to be true about me? Understand that there's no right answer here. There's nothing wrong with you. There's nothing wrong with feeling low and sinking into depression. When it starts affecting your ability to function in life is when you might just consider seeking help. Often, when you take it on as a state of mind, it does begin to impact your life. I do think it's possible to recover from depression or to have beaten depression, to consider yourself having won the battle, if that's how you want to view it. if that's what works for you. Personally, I don't like to think of it as a battle because that creates imagery of a conflict for me. I do like to think of it as a dance that you can find the ability to lead instead of being led by. I know that so many of us experience deep depression or depressive episodes in life, or both at different times in different seasons. This has always been true, and it continues to be true. No matter how much the world around us evolves and how much better things are for us humans, no matter how much we ourselves evolve, the struggle can sometimes seem insurmountable. This is especially true in the times we are in. As I'm recording this, living in a pandemic, some of us losing our livelihoods, others losing our lives, it can seem hopeless. You can feel helpless. You can fall into the depths of despair and honestly believe there is no way out. It is for these reasons that I want to shine my light on a topic that is very close to my existence. While I've talked about feeling broken, and I've talked about finding love in your shadows, and I've talked about self-worth and how most humans at one point in time are feeling that super low frequency where the light inside of you seems so dim, I haven't yet come right out and talked about the big D. I have to even ask myself, why is that? I honestly don't feel that anything is or should be taboo to discuss on this podcast. It's my podcast. I truly believe that it's important to not only explore those dark corners, but also to light them the fuck up so we aren't dwelling there for an eternity, so that we aren't falling into that pit thinking there is no other way out. It isn't a topic that I want to dance around, but that I want to dance with in the lead. So whether your depression is brought about by a chemical imbalance, a temporary emotion, or a state of mind, the most important thing is that you seek help when you need it, and that preferably you learn all of the ways that you can help yourself to learn the dance, the ways that you can be your own guide, teacher, and mentor. Can a life coach help you with this? Is that what this is about? My answer is that depends. What do you need? Have you worked with a doctor and or a therapist? Are you working with one or the other or both? A coach can certainly complement both medical and therapeutic approaches. Or, if you've been down those roads for quite a while and you just need some extra support, I do believe that a coach can help you to see the things that are keeping you stuck. Understanding the role your thoughts play in keeping you spinning in many of your emotions can really help to unlock the power that you can't see yet. And I will confess that coaching has helped me with that immensely. And I would also say this, really shop around and find a coach that you connect with. You would do this with a doctor and you would do this with a therapist. At least I hope that you would. I hope that you wouldn't just take the first available professional. And that if for some reason that you have to, you keep your options open to finding the right one for you. You should do the same with a coach. It doesn't have to be me. I may not be your cup of tea, but find someone who gets you, someone you are comfortable with, and get to doing the hard work if you want to learn to feel better most of the time, or at least half of the damn time. I'm doing this episode not to plug life coaching as a fix for everything, and certainly not for suicidal tendencies, but to let you know that I understand the lowest of the lows. There are many other humans in the world who do as well, and there's nothing to be ashamed of, nothing to be embarrassed by, certainly nothing to hide from. So as a reminder, please, please, if you ever feel unsafe, call someone who you can reach immediately. If you don't have someone in your life to support you in that capacity, call a hotline. I've done it. It works. That is what they are there for. They are well trained and qualified to help you in the moment when you need it most. Also, you can take the pills and you can drink the drinks. No judgment. I'm simply sharing what has worked for me. And I've had to make adjustments and tweaks and refine over many, many years. That's part of the dance, my friends. Depression is not a life sentence. It is simply a dance. Now, let's hear what my friend Rumi has to say. This being human is a guest house. Every morning is a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness. Some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all. Treat each guest honorably. The dark thought, the shame, the malice. Meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whoever comes, because each has been sent as a guide from beyond. Yes, we are meant to feel it all. We are not meant to allow ourselves to suffer from feeling. The next time someone asks, "How are you?" try answering honestly. Really label your emotion in the moment. And if you don't want to do it out loud, if you're not ready for that, at least be honest with yourself. How are you really? Yes, this has been a weighty subject, but I'm here for all of it. There is no pain too great to unload here. Sharing my perspective of even the most difficult of subjects is my way of serving each of you listening. If this episode has been helpful, I greatly appreciate it if you would leave a review on Apple Podcasts so that others can find it too. Light up, shine on.